Sure.
We are recording.
All right. My name's Ryan Wherley. I'm 28 years old. I first came down to the Capitol, would have been last year on Thursday, February 17th. If you had told me I'd be doing this a year from now, I would have thought you were crazy. I'd always been really involved, at least mentally and socially, with politics, but I'd never actually gotten involved myself as far as working on campaigns or anything of the sort. Basically, I practiced democracy as far as I was concerned. Go out and vote, encourage other people to do the same, and for me, that was doing my civic duty. Last year, when the budget repair bill broke, I didn't find out about it till probably February 13th, and I didn't know a lot about it. All I knew is it was something that was going to be terrible for Wisconsin and not send us in the right direction. Yeah, basically, as the days were going by, like I said, I didn't make it in until February 17th. The crowds kept getting progressively larger, and every day I was coming home from work and felt like I had to get home, read the paper, go online, figure out what was going on. Each additional day as the crowds are growing, it became more and more apparent to me I had to get down there. I was lucky enough I worked for my dad, and so he was okay with the idea of me taking off to actually come down on the 17th. I got together with a couple of friends that had been going for a couple days, and as far as I was concerned, I was worried about what was going on, but I just had to see it for myself. I had to be a part of it. Literally, when I first walked in, that was an incredible moment. The moment I walked in the Capitol doors, came in on the State Street side, and just the cacophony of sound everywhere, just echoing in the halls. The moment I walked in, people were chanting, "Recall Walker." I mean, and it was deafening. It was literally incredible. As soon as I walked in, I knew something changed. Like, literally, you don't forget a moment like that, because there's very few times, I feel like, in life where you can actually look back, pinpoint an exact moment that you knew your life was never going to be the same again. And everybody gets some of those moments. For me, the moment I walked in the Capitol on the 17th, that was that moment. I knew I was never going to be the same. Yeah, literally, I mean, I went there with the idea that I was going to go with friends, and I felt I had to be there with friends. I wanted to experience it with them. Well, as it became apparent to me, as the course of that day dragged on, I came there probably about 1 o'clock. I didn't end up leaving till probably after midnight. Went to the Ed Schultz rally out on the square, came back inside, went to the outdoor rallies. And it was apparent from the get-go that what was going on inside was truly something historic. Like, you knew you weren't going to come across that every day. Just the emotion that was involved, just total indignation from such a massive amount of people. But yet at the same point, people were furious and pissed off, but they were united, they were together, it was peaceful. And it quickly became apparent that this was going to be a place that was truly special to me. And I'm not religious at all, but if there could be like a secular holy ground, for me that was the Capitol from that point on. And I worked 9 to 5 every day, so I couldn't be a part of the group that was holding down the fort and spending the night inside. But as it was going on, it was apparent as the days dragged on that it was truly a family inside. And my parents always had this sign up on our kitchen wall that said, I never really took it that seriously, "A family makes a house a home." And, you know, this was always the people's house. You always had full access, could walk around. And I'd been in here before when I was growing up. I grew up in Sun Prairie. But as the days dragged on, it became more and more apparent that this wasn't just the people's house. This was the people's home. It was truly a family. You were starting to see the same people every day. And I never met a lot of them. Didn't know who they were, still haven't met a lot of them. But I couldn't have felt more comfortable. Like, no matter how many times I came, it got to the point where I knew I could come down after work for what would be an hour at night, and I would end up staying till 2 in the morning. I would have loved to have stayed, but knowing that I had to get back to work, I just couldn't. So I stayed as long as I could. And I don't know, just the idea that I've never been somewhere where you could actually show up somewhere by yourself and know you were not alone at all. It just, You knew you were surrounded in the company of a bunch of people who they came from different areas. They had different reasons for being there, whether they were teachers, private union workers, you know, state employees, the firefighters. And like that's what stuck with me too. The firefighters, when they came walking in, and I've always been a fan of bagpipes, and when they came in with the bagpipes blaring that day, I mean, that was just incredible. The atmosphere just exploded. So yeah, basically as the days were dragging on, I kept getting down here every chance I could, and it kept becoming more and more apparent as the days were dragging on when I'd come down at the nights that things are starting to get more restrictive and repressive. It was blatantly obvious that there was a more visible and more prominent police presence seemingly by the day. And whereas the first few days I'd have to wait in line to get in, and you'd come in and the place was packed to the gills, it got to the point where there went from being 16 entrances open to 8 to 4 to them closing off the hallways and bathrooms. And you knew something was going on. And the last night they locked it down, I finally didn't have to work that next Saturday. I was planning on, I believe it was a Friday night. I was gonna come in, got all my stuff ready to go, and then someone called and told me that they'd actually locked the Capitol down. And I remember just being furious. I mean, I was frustrated. I mean, just imagine being locked out of your home. And at that point, for so many people who could be here when myself and millions of others couldn't, you couldn't get back in to see your family. And that felt just awful. And so that's why what everybody did with holding down the fort and the people who stayed inside, I made a point of coming down as many times as I could outside. When the original Walkerville was formed with people sleeping outside the Capitol, just to come down and be able to talk with maybe 3 people outside and walk around, make a couple laps, just knowing that there was, you know, at that point 100 or so people still inside who were standing up for all the people who couldn't do it. It just, you knew you had to keep coming. And so, you know, as that kept dragging on, like they were bringing, Ken Dunbeck had the People's microphone going outside. And to me, the People's mic is maybe the most incredible thing of all, because you saw high school kids, middle schoolers, seniors, teachers, you know, just normal people who felt completely empowered to get in front of a large group of people and just bare their entire souls. I mean, you don't see that very often where people can just go, and essentially the People's mic was a living diary for everyone to just pour it out, no matter how they felt, pissed off, happy, peaceful, frustrated. That was it. And I finally got the courage to get on the People's mic, which I'd wanted to do for about 3 weeks outside, and just went off. I thought I was going to cry, but it was like the most cathartic experience to actually get on the mic and just talk to a bunch of people I've never met, and they just hung on every word I said as if it was the most important thing, when at that point it clearly was not. I mean, my story is definitely not unique, but I don't know. Just now when I come back, I couldn't even come back to the Capitol probably from the moment it got locked down. I wasn't even able to come inside until about 2 months ago, because literally every time I'd walk in, it would just, the thought of walking in took me back, and it was too much. I didn't want to come inside and just lose it walking in. But now I feel comfortable again being back in. And actually the last time I was in was March 9th, when they split the bill and busted Act 10 out in, you know, with no notice. And I was one of 20 people here. I came that day, I was homesick and had to go to the doctor. And I was like, well, I want to come for about 2 hours before they shut the Capitol down at 6. And I walked in and I was just shocked, not seeing all the signs on the walls. There was maybe 20 people inside, quiet, silently just standing there. And then a woman from the TAA came running in, maybe 4:30, 4:45, just a firebrand, just screaming, you got to get on your phones, you know, Twitter, whatever you got to do, text, blog, I don't care what it is, get everyone down here. And so we didn't even know what, we knew something bad was going down. We knew they were splitting the bill, and it was incredible. I ran to my car to get my signs. I came back 10 minutes later, and there was already 100 people in line. Got inside, and within an hour, there must have been 2,000 people. And that was it. That literally was the point where you knew there was no going back, that we were in it for the long haul. All of our efforts, while not being for naught at that point, were just at a stage where we were in the next phase. The occupation was over. the bill was going to get passed. There was nothing we could do to stop it. But that's why going to that rally on the 12th was, I mean, it was just incredible. When the 14 came back, I mean, the fact that the DOA and the Capitol Police tried to estimate that there was 80,000 people there, that's ridiculous. 2 weeks earlier on the 26th, there had been agreed upon about 100,000 people, and it was nearly twice as packed in the streets. You literally could not move. John Nichols estimated 150 to 175,000 based on independent journalist estimations. And just people knew, when you looked around, that's when you knew that we may have lost that original battle, but that we're in a war, and it's going to keep going on. And when you looked around, and essentially on 2 days' notice, you got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people to take to the streets, and the 14 came back after everything they did for us, you knew that there was no turning back, and we were in this for the long haul.